Smith Bernard Tobin, our Ontario correspondent. It's been an interesting week in Ontario agriculture, that's for sure. Premier Wynne, Ag Minister Wynne, has been very busy. She's rolled out this local food initiative, announced a $10 million corn-fed beef initiative. Give us a sense of what's going on.
Well, I think the local food initiative, the bill has been, generally well accepted and greeted. It's basically the same bill or similar bill that was, up in front of the government had sort of tabled back in October, but Mr. McGuinty prorogued the legislature and everything died at that time. So they brought that back, and I generally met with a good reception, talking about the importance of eating local, getting public institutions to get on board with the local food movement. Obviously, I think the Ontario Federation of Agriculture pointed out that there's 1,500 public institutions in Ontario that's serving 3 meals a day, and if you could get those people to 25%, that's $200 million worth of local food. So tremendous opportunities here. Proclaiming a local food week around Thanksgiving, and those type of things. So I guess the only challenge is we're still at about 15,000 feet. There's not a lot of details here, not a lot of goals, not a lot of targets. I think that's what the Conservatives and the opposition are seizing on. I think Ernie Hardeman, the critic, called it fluff. And
so is this purely strategic? Is this really just political? Was this, the idea of the premier taking on the ag role, is this just riding on the wave of agriculture and rural and local food being sexy right now? Is this completely strategic, really?
Oh, I think it's very strategic. Obviously, local food is, as a buzzword, it's a great opportunity. It's a good opportunity for rural Ontario. It's a good opportunity for farmers. It's also a good opportunity for the Liberal government. Kathleen Wynne's been working hard. She's been on the road. As you mentioned earlier, grain-fed beef announcement this week. She's been out to see the chicken farmers of Ontario, grain farmers of Ontario last week. She's tackled the horse racing debacle, the mess that Mr. McGuinty made there. And basically, the Slots at Racetracks program is not coming back. But most of these racetracks are going to race. The government's giving them money or coming up with money. So they're making that policy up as they go. So again, trying to get as far away from Mr. McGuinty as possible. And that is very strategic because rural Ontario is very important. In the last election, rural Ontario was basically conservative. Mr. Hudak has been able to sort of win rural Ontario. Urban Ontario, Toronto, Central, great GTA, is Liberal. Those are the two divides. So, Ms. Wynne wants to hold on to Ontario, to urban Ontario, and reach out and make some moves in rural Ontario.
So now, and if there were an election, let's say, called anytime soon, would anything be different?
Well, if you look at if you think about, if I talk to the horse racing people and they say, hey, let's get rid of this Liberal government. We want the Conservatives in. We want someone else in. Well, that's a nice idea. But if you look at the polls, basically the Liberals and the Conservatives have tied. The last research a couple of weeks ago at around 32%, with the NDP bringing up a close third. So if you went to the polls right now, that would basically translate into, given the division of seats in Ontario, the Liberals probably winning about 53 seats of 107. The same exact story that we have today. So as much as some of these people want to see an election, it's probably not going to change the result. The Conservatives, they're sitting in the catbird seat as potential of wanting to take over the government, but those numbers don't say they can win. And they also have a $5 billion deficit from the last election, 18 months ago.
Elections are very expensive, as we learned federally.
And the NDP are there. They have announced today that they're going to, the Liberal government are going to support their need for, a reduction in auto insurance premiums, one of the NDP's, pet issues here. So, again, the NDP has agreed to prop up the Liberals. So this gives Ms. Wynne an opportunity again to continue to strip away the baggage that Mr. McGuinty left. the question is how much can she strip away, and what fire is down the road next week.
And I guess one of my comments or one of my questions is, how then does rural Ontario make the most of this, right? I mean, it's very strategic. It's very, it's a focus right now. Will it always be? Are we just a Toronto sort of centric problem away from rural Ontario being left in the dust, right? So.
I think both parties. I mean, the Conservatives came out a couple of weeks ago with their new, I guess, promise or a roadmap for rural Ontario called, Paths of Prosperity, a little bit of a tongue twister. And, you'll see a lot on, reducing red tape, creating opportunities in rural Ontario, on local food initiative. And so I think all governments realize the importance of rural Ontario, the agricultural sector. I don't think anybody's going to lose here. It's just when does an election take place? And how do the political dynamics shift? As I say, the reality is the Liberals still have a stronghold in urban Ontario, predominance of seats. And, rural Ontario is still predominantly Conservative. So I guess the challenge is, can Mr. Tim Hudak, if the Conservatives ever want to win this, make some inroads into the Liberal stronghold? And they had a tremendous opportunity in the last election. There was no one more surprised to win an election last year than Dalton McGuinty. And Mr. Hudak is working hard, but at a point you have to ask the question: is Tim Hudak electable?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is it's been an interesting week in the Ontario landscape. Bern, let's do this again soon. Let's maybe touch base again soon and keep track on where Ms. Wynne may be next week.
We will.
We will. All right. Thanks so much.